First of all, I'm so sorry about what's going on in your own community. I know, Senator, that you have been speaking. Let's start with the human side of this, what I was just referring to. You've been speaking to family members, to parents of these very young children. What are you hearing?
Yes. So, first of all, I appreciate the work of the mayor. I've talked to the governor and our first responders, the hospital workers. The fact that we had a children's hospital that's renowned so nearby we want these kids to be saved. But talking to the parents is where you really, I guess, your heart just wants to break. So one of my former employees who was with me a long time, she said I could use her name, Kate Nyland. Her daughter, Cora, was in there. She was one of the older kids. This is a pre-K through 8th grade school, loved school in the neighborhood, beloved school with all the parents, and that church is right there next to it. So the kids were in the mass, and they were packed in there. And so this girl, 7th, 8th grade, literally watched her friends, some of her best friends, be shot, one in the neck, one in the stomach. And when they were running out, when they finally got out, she was the one, this child, who had to tell one of her friend's dads that the friend had been shot. And of course, the chaos that would ensue in any place when there's a mass shooting like this. And the other information, that I got from the mayor and others were, of course, consistent with what you've heard. This was a madman, acting alone, somehow knows about this ceremony. All those facts will come out, standing outside of this mass and shooting one by one these kids down as they're praying in the church.
I mean, just to hear you describe Cora, an 8th grader, 7th or 8th grader, having to tell the parent of her friend that they were shot. It's I mean, anybody with kids, anybody with a beating heart, it's just beyond.
Right.
Do you know anything more about those more broadly who were injured, those who were killed, an 8 and 10-year-old?
Right, an 8 and a 10-year-old, and then you have a total of 19 that we know of that were hit. 17, of course, we have 2 dead right now, 17 injured, and of those, 14 were children. So there were also adults who were shot, right? There were most likely teachers or, we don't know, people involved in the service. So there were also adults that were shot, and I'm sure as we hear the details on this, the stories of these people trying to get out those doors, trying to scramble underneath the pews, which is what they were told to do, to protect themselves. I know they're going to be tragic, but there will also be stories of heroism, stories of faith, stories of parents and others helping each other. But it is, when you think about what happened here and the fact that he had these 3 guns, multiple guns, I believe it was something over some kind of grievance that may not even involve the school. And those facts will be revealed when the police have thoroughly investigated them. But this is a time, as the mayor said, these just aren't someone else's kids. Anyone can imagine on the first day of school, I remember this, dropping your child off to a bus or bringing them to the school, thinking they're going to be safe. It's just the most horrific thing any parent, and I know you are a parent as well, Dana, any parent can imagine.
Yeah, it sure is. Senator, you mentioned that I know that you want to let law enforcement take the lead here, but you just mentioned that you believe that this individual had some kind of grievance not even related to the school. Is there anything else you can share?
Not really. I just think that they have to get to the bottom of this. As you know, with these scenes from covering so many of them, that there'll be rumors and then they're not true and then you figure it out. But I think this image of this gunman shooting through these windows, picking off these kids while they're praying is something that is going to be with people for a long time. And when you think about guns and you think about, as the mayor said, thoughts and prayers just aren't enough here right now. because these kids were actually praying.
Yeah, I do want to listen to that because that sent chills up my spine, I'm sure everybody's spine, when they heard the mayor say that. Let's listen to that moment.
Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have, every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country.
I mean, he's expressing something that I know you feel and most people feel, which is a combination of sadness, but raw rage. That forget about thoughts and prayers. These kids were literally praying when they were murdered through a church window.
It's unbelievable. And just, Jacob, the mayor, and his wife Sarah just had a second baby. So I know he knows this just gutturally of how this feels, to think of your own children in that situation. And I think part of what he's getting at here is that there's thoughts and prayers, and then the law enforcement does their job well, and hospitals do their job well, and they save some lives, and people are injured. But there's a whole room of those kids in that church that are going to never forget what happened. That hopefully they'll be able to get through it in their own lives. But you think of that in other mass shootings, it's the immediate death, it's the immediate family, but then it's a whole community. And ultimately, it's an entire nation that has to grapple with the fact of we have too many guns out there right now. And there's all kinds of policy things that we could do that would still preserve people's right to hunt, people's right to collect guns, people's that care about guns for sport and guns for protection. But at some point, when you see these innocent kids praying in a church and they get gunned down by a madman, you have to step back and think, what can we do better? What can we do better with background checks or with assault weapons, which may not have played into this situation? But every situation is different. And there are a number of things we can do that would not hurt law-abiding gun owners, of which there are so many in my state and in our country. And so it does get you to that. But right now, in our state, we're just mourning for these families. We're mourning for those kids that were in there that may have survived but will never be the same. And we are supporting our law enforcement and our hospitals. And there's right now some doctors and nurses that are sitting in an operating room with a little kid trying to save them from a shot in the stomach or a shot in the neck. And that's what we think of viscerally now. But to just let it go there and say thoughts and prayers is no longer enough.
But Senator, I mean, you just alluded to this, and this is what the mayor was getting at. How many times have we seen this cycle, this horrible cycle of the trauma, the tragedy? I mean, you mentioned that the whole nation. I had to send a note to my brother to say, my niece and nephew, who are 9 and 10, don't watch the show today because I don't want them to be traumatized. They'll hear about it. And parents are dealing with this all across the country. And of course, the most important, the parents that we're thinking of the most are those who have either lost those two children or those who have their children in the operating room right now. But when is enough going to be enough?
Exactly. You know, I remember the stories when I was in Nashville after that school shooting, and I was in a bookstore, Ann Patchett's bookstore, and this was a week later, and one of the moms was in there. She couldn't sleep. She was looking for a book. Of course, her child had survived, but she told the story to us of the kids in a line and how literally her child was in the line and saw her best friend shot, and she's just trying to hold on. She's trying to find a book. She's trying to figure out what can she read to her to make this better. And there's one thing we can do to make this better and stop the angry rhetoric, start working on solutions that we know have worked in other countries or could work here. And it's not just one size fits all, but we've got to be willing to do it. And especially some of my colleagues who've been afraid to do it. We did do one bipartisan bill for community violence, and including with Chris Murphy and Senator Cornyn and a number of other people. It included my provision on domestic violence, and people that have been convicted shouldn't be able to go out and get guns. We've done these things, but there's much bigger things we could do when it comes to background checks and assault weapons and having more national standards in place, and being stricter about getting these guns out there. And if a bunch of kids praying in a church and shot down through the windows of that church and locked into that by a madman isn't enough to make people move, I just don't know what is anymore.
Senator, thank you so much for joining us
Okay.
on this horrific, tragic day in this moment for your state once
Thank
again.
you.